So first thing we got to consider is what is a vitamin. Vitamin or vitamin. Vitality, Amin Ra. We get our sustenance from the sun, Amin Ra, right? The Egyptian god, as they say, or Neter. So we get our vitality from the sun, or we get our sustenance from the sun. So as an example, from sun exposure to skin contact, we get vitamin D. Now, 90% of Americans are vitamin D deficient. 90% of Americans are vitamin D deficient. This means that when a person is vitamin D deficient, what are some of the symptoms? Some of the symptoms are depression, anxiety, and in acute forms, suicide. So what we can clearly see now, when you look at races that's having problems living under the sun, when you look at races having problems living under the sun, you have to take into consideration the mass murders, mass shootings. I bet you if they did a statistic on vitamin D deficiency and the mass shootings, you would really say, oh, sweat. The people having problems living under the sun are bugging the freak out. And then even when you look at us going to work, the working class, the working class have become vampires, so to speak. And so the reason why I say the working class have become vampires is because when they go to work, it's dark. And most times, our people can get a job. They got to get a job in the downtown area where there's skyscrapers or buildings scraping the sky or blocking the sun. And then, when they get off of work, it's dark. And then if you're in the city areas like New York, to go to work, you got to go underground or be in the subway. So by the time you get free time on your day off, what happens? You get to go to the club because you missed the sun most of the week. So the moon is not a luminescent body of itself. It gets its light from the sun. So you don't get the full 19 rays from the sun spectrum that you're supposed to get as a melanite. What winds up happening is you're only getting moonlight, which makes you a lunatic. Lunas. So Monday in Spanish is what? Lunes. The moon is lunar, right? And what did we see when we watch those werewolf movies? People become lunatics because you're only getting the moon's light as opposed to the sun's light. And that's the problem. We're not getting enough of the sun's light, so we're becoming deficient, and therefore it's hard to sustain ourselves not getting all of the sun's rays or impact from its full spectrum. Those real deep. Vitamins are very important, but the problem with vitamins is that the ones you receive in your tablets or those capsules, you're only going to get 10% of what you're looking for out of a whole bottle. You take that whole bottle of vitamins and you probably won't get the impact you're looking for no further than 10% of a vitamin out of a whole bottle. That's a fact, because vitamins are produced naturally from sun exposure. Absolute fact. So you got cobalamin, which is an organism that's produced in the small intestine that detoxifies your melanin. This is a trace mineral and or can only be produced by way of sun exposure. So for you to get a efficient and successful melanin detox, to clean your melanocytes, right, to purge them of toxins, and remember there's two different melanins that you got to consider, and that's neuromelanin and neuromelanin. One is skin melanin and the other one is brain and central nervous system melanin. So if you don't get to detox your brain and central nervous system melanin, you could become deranged. Your thought process can be compromised. And so it's very important to get B12. But the alphanumerics for B12 would allude to something that's inorganic or something that's not alive. But cobalamin is actually what B12 is. Amin again, as in sun. So B12 is actually cobalamin in its unpure form. Cobalamin is the organism birthed in the small intestine that's responsible for detoxing your melanocytes. Unfortunately, we have to use as a source B12. But once you hear those alphanumerics, you would never presume that B12 is supposed to be an organism providing the same job. In fact, when you hear about B12, no one ever even tells you about detoxifying the melanin. Secondly, if you want B12, you have a circadian rhythm. So this means that at certain choice hours out the day, vitamins are produced due to sun exposure. So if you want B12, you can get B12 between 9 a.m. to about 10:30. You also can get B12 when the sun is near zenith, around 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock. So you have an internal clock, and during key points in time out the day, your body produces vitamins provided you get the sun exposure that corresponds with that hour. Otherwise, you have to get these fake things they call pills. These vitamins that they sell inside of bottles. And it really is never going to be as effective as actually getting the sunlight. But you have to get those supplements to supplant the activity you're lacking in, because you're working most of the time not getting the sun that you need throughout the day. So my suggestion to people is always to look at your week and break up the hours out the day in the week in which you get sun exposure. So let's say Monday, you say, yo, I'm gonna make a concerted effort to get sun exposure from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then you say on Tuesday, as an example, I'm gonna go from 10 a.m. to about 12 noon. Then on Wednesday, you might say, I'm gonna go from 12 noon to 3 p.m. Then, and so forth and so on. The reason you wanna do that, because the sun is as important to your diet as consuming physical food. The sun is part of your diet. When you eat food, you're looking to get vitamins. So the sun is part of your diet. In the same way, light is synthesized by plants for the purposes of creating food and information. Melanin is the first cousin to chlorophyll, and it also synthesizes light for the purposes of expansion, consciousness, communication amongst the cells, called autopoiesis. It's very important. So light is a form of food, and that's why you don't want to surround yourself around lights that don't biologically embed. So many of the lights that we have on in the house, if it's not light by fire, candlelight, you got to be careful, because your body looks for light for nutritional reasons and purpose. And like I said, the light that's in our households do not biologically embed, so we can't use them for natural purposes. We can't synthesize the halogen lights in the hospital that the children are born to. We can't synthesize the lights that's in your house, the 65, 75 watt light bulbs. That light does nothing for you. And in turn, it creates a form of depression, unbeknown to many of us. And in turn, relying on those lights make us vitamin D deficient, because we're not getting the natural light, because we are just like plants in the sense that we grow towards the sun. We're just like plants in the sense that we break down the light for the purposes of communications to take place on a cellular level within the body. Very important information. So light, as I always say, is priority in our diet. And I oftentimes tell people, the darker you are, the lighter you are, because full spectrum light solidified, the sun's full spectrum, when full spectrum light is solidified, it constitutes a melanocyte or melanin cell. Therefore, the more pigmented you are, the lighter you are. So the darker you are, the lighter you are. You understand? So light-skinned people are really dark people, right? And then white people are actually the colored people. White people are actually the colored people because you can see all the different colors in their veins. Their skin is transparent. White people are colored people, and dark people are light-skinned people, because when the sun, or when light in its full spectrum is consolidated, it constitutes the melanocyte. So how about that? They've been playing games with us the whole time, calling us the colored people, and they're colored. They be looking pink, We can see the green vein, we can see blue veins. It's insane. They're actually like ghostly in a sense. This is not to disrespect anybody. They are actually the colored people. We're the light-skinned people. We're children of the sun. We can live in the light. We don't, on average, need sunscreen. We don't need to block the sun. I mean, consider that type of task on planet Earth. If you're having problems living under the sun, one, you're either not from this planet, or two, you don't belong on here. It's a fact. And then you have to ask yourself, why would the melanated want to produce babies with people who may give our offspring disadvantages like not being able to live under the sun? Just a thought, though. Maybe I'm tripping. But when you break down this information, people think that your attempt is to be racist. And I have no investment in racism. You know, I've learned through my travels, having gone to Hong Kong, gone to Thailand, you know, various places in Europe, Ghana, Dubai, Jamaica, Cayman Islands, you know, I've learned, Canada, UK, I've learned throughout the course of my travels that there are some genuine people on planet Earth of all races. Very positive people that have contributed to my life or my family's, either advertently or inadvertently. So this presentation has very little to do, if any, with race as far as the politics thereof. These are just facts. These are just facts. I'm not looking to be rude or I'm not even attempting to be facetious in the slightest. These are just facts. And unfortunately, when you speak these truths, people want to have you shut down. They want you to be silenced because there's a lot at stake. A lot of years were put in to tying into the vine. And that means when you say tying to the vine, that's a term where people are genetically infiltrated. Tying into the vine, as in retrospect to our history here in America and abroad, is when other races were raping us for so many generations that we'd adopt their lifestyle and their techniques, but it's also so we can prolong their existence on planet Earth. They said they hate you, but it never stopped them from raping you because they needed to prolong their lifespan. They needed to survive. What you call sickle cell was the malaria that was killing off Caucasoids. What you call sickle cell anemia is the cure for malaria in black people and the death for Caucasians. I'll say that again. What you call sickle cell anemia is the cure for black people for malaria and the death sentence for Caucasians and non-blacks alike. They thought we were zombies when we wasn't dying from malaria. But what our body did is create what's called an adaptive disorder. You see, we'll call it a disease, but let's really be more technical. Sickle cell anemia is an adaptive disorder. And what this means is that this is a scenario that's written off as a disease primarily because we've been displaced or dislodged, subject to different environmental conditions that would kill others. But for us, our immunity was so strong, our body came up with a working model to protect us, which was to turn the red blood cells into crescent shapes and deprive the malaria parasites of the oxygen that it needed to survive. And because it couldn't survive under those conditions, yes, we did come up with a form of discomfort, but this discomfort that they're identifying as a disease is an adaptive disorder because it was our body's form of creating a cure to prolong our life under these stark circumstances called the cold, which malaria exists in. Now you go throughout Africa and you look at the disease, sickle cell anemia, it's going to be very hard to find it until you realize people started going to Africa that had it. Okay? It has its inception in going to the colder places. And so We had the cure. And a lot of white folks was thinking, these guys are zombies. Maybe it's their black skin. We get sick. They'll see their loved ones having to get buried. They see us looking like we're on our deathbed. They're not feeding us good food. And next thing you know, we back up and running. And they're like, yo, what the hell is this? This person's still alive? So sickle cell was actually a cure. And it still is to this very day. It's the byproduct of a history that denotes the strength of our immunity as a race. And this is why we've been experimenting on for so long. This is why when you study Henrietta Lacks, without the permission of her family, they were constantly replicating her cells. So much so that you can build an Empire State Building worth of her cells in terms of height and weight. They've been using her cells to cure diseases, not even to the aid, not even to the advantage of us as a people, more rather to the advantage of non-black people. Picture that, they've been using a black woman's cells to cure diseases for non-black people, and then charge us all sorts of money for health care, for health insurance, when our DNA is the health insurance for other races. How about that one? And Henrietta Lacks is not the only one of her kind, where they realize, yo, this blood, for whatever reason, is susceptible or vulnerable to getting diseases, this DNA type. So, in many senses, we have like the Wolverine factor. If you study the X-Men, Wolverine, there was a time where there was a virus murdering all the mutants. And what they learned to do towards the end of the show was to make sure they give Wolverine the virus on purpose. So Wolverine would die momentarily, but he had such a healing factor that his body created the serum or the remedy. And then they created the vaccine from his blood. Okay? Wolverine is the metaphor for black people. More especially in this particular case, Henrietta Lacks. It looks like just a cartoon, but they've identified us in society as the mutants. And all the while, whenever we get a fair shake, whether it's in sports, whether it's in music, or various forms of entertainment, or education, anytime we've given it a fair shake, we've always excelled to the top in mathematics, excelled to the top in science, excelled to the top in sports, excelled to the top in music. Facts. All facts. So we have been categorized as the X-Men, figuratively speaking, as the mutants in society that they want to murder off because they don't understand us, because of the gifts that makes us so special. In fact, they've turned our gifts into things that have become atrocities, where they got our people walking around now, since they control the educational system, they got our people walking around here feeling like something's wrong with their broad nose. Something's wrong with their big neck, big lips and their big nose and their almond-shaped eyes and big eyes and their dark skin. All the things that make us special. They got the women feeling bad that they got hips. They got our women feeling bad that they got hips. But those hips are designed for childbearing. The race that has the hips is the race that's supposed to reproduce at a maximum level. It's real talk. They got breast milk banks out here filled with our women's milk because they have problems producing milk at the same efficient rate that we're able to produce milk. Breast milk banks. So, and then you also have black women being hired to breastfeed white children. We don't see these things and say, damn, we're superhumans on planet Earth. No, they will project in the media that we're harlots, that we're prostitutes, that we're vagabonds, that we're promiscuous. But what they won't tell you is, all the while, they're raping you of your DNA. They can't even go into space without using melanin. They done created a synthetic form of melanin called black synthetic matter. They done created a form of melanin called black synthetic matter. BSM. It's coated in your umbrellas, is put into your glasses. Rocket ships have this melanin coated outside of it because you can't leave the planet unless you coat it with melanin, which makes me question the validity of some of these explorations that have humans on it, because it would make more sense to send melanated people out in space, not melanin recessive people, because we know you have to coat even your ships with a form of melanin so it can interpenetrate the Van Allen's belt, which would set anything ablaze if it's not coated with melanin. Facts. Well, I mean, shit, what do I know? I'm just talking crazy anyway at the end of the day. But when you look this stuff up, you'll say, wow, we really are special. We are the X-Men. We are the mutants. You feel what I'm saying? That's what we really are.